So I'm back with Unconditional Surrender, World War II in Europe yet again, and we're just moving into September 1940, and there's just a little bit of action in North Africa, where you can see it's basically a war of supply going on in North Africa. Not going to say too much about it, but you can see down here and further up in there, these low supply, the white low supply markers on top of these Italian units, and just beyond there you can see the British Army has just taken the fort at Tobruk, and this carrier force here, based out of Malta, moved over from Gibraltar, based itself out in Malta, and is basically cutting all the supply that the Italians are trying to get through from that convoy unit in Tripoli, and the Italians are trying to break that sort of siege with Second Fleet there in Sicily and First Fleet there, based out of southern Italy. So we'll see how that goes. But also, there's I think the British are going to start having problems paying for this very expensive naval warfare, simply because the Germans now have a port into the North Atlantic, and that's going to give them massive bonuses on their strategic warfare roles against Great Britain, together with this air unit here, based out of Norway. Very expensive to take Norway, but that air unit and that port are going to make life very uncomfortable for a while economically for the British, and we're just going to have to see what England can afford to pay for. But I think this North African war might be a bit too pricey for them at the moment, and so that might swing the Italians' way. We'll see what happens. So it can be quite frustrating trying to play something like, well, anything really. Anything that you have to leave set up when you've got monsters like this in the house can be really quite aggravating. And I've come back to Unconditional Surrender, World War II in Europe. It's the beginning of November 1940, and I have had to do some kind of running repairs to the board where I found things knocked over, but now I'm starting to find situations where counters are just missing entirely. I don't mind finding them knocked over or occasionally on the floor, but when my cats manage to, I've got two of the little rotters, when they manage to disappear counters entirely, it is slightly aggravating. Anyway, November 1940, start of, and just I've rattled through September, October reasonably quickly. Bit of posturing and a bit of cat and mouse in the Mediterranean between the British and Italian navies, but that's kind of died down because the weather is now abysmal, and almost not worth the cost. So everything's going to quieten down now a little bit. Although interestingly, Turkey has come into the war on the Axis side and garrisoned all its sort of Mediterranean ports and cities, rather than the Russian border, because the Russians aren't even activated yet. So although the Russians got to put some infantry down in response, they can't move as of yet. not. I was planning with the Turks, or I was thinking the Turks might try and swing round into sort of Palestine and maybe try and threaten Egypt from the other direction or something interesting like that. But we'll see. I mean, the weather's rotten, so maybe they can just make some ground, knowing that they can't really be seriously attacked. And the British haven't, the Brits haven't got much force down here. They've got powerful navies, but in terms of actual infantry, they've got those 2 units. They've got 2 units here. Well, no, they've got, a unit just sat in front of the fort in Tobruk, and they've got a garrison unit in Alexandria. So they certainly haven't got sort of infantry to go messing around and taking on multiple armies that the Turks can field. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. See whether the Axis can squeeze the British before they have to start thinking about the Russian front.